This week, Aleda Solis sat down with Googler Danny Sullivan to talk about the future of search, and the biggest takeaway was this.
What about SEO?
SEO's dead.
Again?
Don't worry, he was only joking. It was actually a really good interview. They talked about AI, UGC, and actually at one point, Danny let slip a secret content optimization strategy, which I'm codenaming the 80s love ballad.
Just keep listening to your heart and doing what it is that you think is the right thing to be doing.
Hello everyone and welcome to this week's Canonical Chronicle, the meme-infused SEO news that stops your rankings from tanking. My name's Ross, I'm the founder at Type A Media. We're an SEO agency based in London and we work on clients like this and get them results like this. All of today's topics and timestamps are in the description below, along with our handy companion slide deck. So, without further ado, let's get into it. I don't know about you, but over the past year, have you noticed sites like Reddit and Quora literally stealing traffic from smaller websites?
Yoink!
Yoink! Which makes sense, right? If I want to buy a vacuum cleaner, where on the internet can I find an expert with an unexplainable preoccupation with said vacuum cleaners? Usually Reddit.
I said, don't disturb you, I'm cleaning my room!
So it makes a lot of sense as to why Google are starting to surface a lot more of this stuff. And in fact, Danny Sullivan actually said why Google are starting to surface a lot more UGC content.
Part of the reason you're seeing more of this UGC content is because people feel more comfortable with it, or they feel like it isn't got some kind of ulterior motive that goes with it.
And in fact, one of the most interesting things about this interview is when he actually differentiated between experience content and expert content, saying this.
I said that people are trying to get more authentic information. They want to hear from other people with experiences. They value that type of thing. And we want to show it when it's relevant.
Now, of course, this all plays into what we can see in the Search Quality Rater guidelines around EEAT. So as SEOs, how do we use this information to rank our clients higher? A Type A, our professional advice is, if you're going to make expert content, just make expert content. And what I mean by that is, look at the intent, keep it informational throughout, and if you have to, convert them into something, put in a lead magnet in there that's related to the content that they've just landed on. Don't try and sell them a service based off of some blog post they've just read, because it is a bit weird, and in fact, Danny Sullivan actually says this in the interview.
And why are you telling me at the end, so sign up at this place to get your car tuned up or whatever? It's weird.
Last week, we reported on Google updating their spam documentation around something called site reputation abuse. But little did I know that I would need to have my popcorn ready for what was about to happen next.
Yeah, he's over here!
That's because big websites in the industry started to lose positions with their traffic literally falling off of a cliff. First up, it was Forbes Advisor. They lost 160,000 keywords out of the index, which amounted to about 5 million clicks in the space of 4 days. Talk about a bad day in the office. Then we saw Quora, then we saw LinkedIn. So let's get into what's actually happened here. So firstly, some of the drops are very normal. The Forbes one is on the advisor folder, which appears to be a manual action. But more interestingly, LinkedIn actually took a hit, in particular LinkedIn Pulse. But it's for YMYL terms like semaglutide was one of the really big ones that they lost their rankings for. But what's really interesting and tells us a little bit more about what's going on is that LinkedIn Pulse no longer rank for the term LinkedIn. This would suggest that Google's really dialed down any power that they may have had due to this massive brand entity they have. We can also see that they've rolled in a bunch of updates to this because they used to rank for terms like private investigator, and when we dig into the URL on LinkedIn Pulse that used to rank for that, we can see that it's just your classic parasite SEO attempt. So overall, I would say this update was a really good, positive update. As an SEO consultant, I've heard my fair share of tinfoil hat conspiracy theories.
I don't like them putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay.
But it's very rare that you're proven right and you realize that you weren't actually a conspiracy nut at all.
Absolutely not. A good conspiracy is an unprovable one.
So when I watched this 40-minute presentation by Cindy Crum, I found it really interesting to find out that it looks like Google are using the Chrome browser to render JavaScript, which makes a ton of sense. We know that Google crawl the web in two waves, first to find all the URLs, and then when they've got enough compute resource, they come back and render all the JavaScript. What we didn't know is the compute resource is you.
Combined with a form of fusion, the machines had found all the energy they would ever need.
So as an SEO, what should we actually be doing with this information? Nothing really. Like, we've always known that JavaScript is very resource intensive. That's why Google's always pushing Core Web Vitals on one hand, but kind of playing it down as a ranking factor on the other. However, to go as far as to say that Google is using the Chrome browser as a rendering engine for JavaScript, kind of like a crypto miner that you don't really know about, feels like a little bit of a leap. So the takeaway here is, if you're going to use JavaScript, make sure all your content is already loaded in the DOM before JavaScript does anything. That means don't use client-side rendering with your JavaScript, but to be honest with you, most of us already know that already. A new study by SEO tool BrightEdge shows that AI overviews at the top of search are showing more and more niche content.
You must be 18 to enter this website. Okay.
So when we say niche sites, we mean authority websites with specific domain level expertise, not the niche website that you made about turtles.
I like turtles. All right, you're great zombie.
So the study's showing websites like spinehealth.com really going up, but more generalized websites like everydayhealth.com starting to go down. So this actually looks like Google living up to their promise of promoting more niche content from independent site owners and demoting more large generic content. Or, let's put our tinfoil hat on for a second. Google are promoting smaller sites in these AI overviews because they're not able to sue them for taking any of their content. So Google gets its AI overview and you get a zero-click experience and you get no traffic despite providing the content for said experience. So it looks like the small guy is winning, but actually he's always getting screwed over. And if we dig into that original interview with Danny Sullivan, it's very interesting that he says that they have no plans to put any reporting in Search Console for AI overviews. I wonder why. Is it because the SERPs are always changing and it's too hard to put in an AI overview dashboard in a Search Console? Or is it because Google doesn't want you to know how hard you're being fucked?
Can we get stats on things in Search Console from AI overviews? And no, and there's no plan to do that. And similarly, we don't do that for feature snippets. And that's another thing that people wanted. And I don't really have a good answer for you other than overall, the company views these all as part of search and not something that's worth breaking out.
That's everything for this week's Canonical Chronicle. Remember to get the companion slide deck in the description below. And until next time, we'll see you later.
Listen to your heart.